Senku and Co. finally arrive at the origin of the petrification beam, only to find a huge glowing mountain made up of medusas. Anyhow, Senku quickly gets to work and chants 1 meter in 3 seconds, but nothing happens. Meanwhile, Taiju gets all fired up and starts testing every petrification device. As expected, every single unit is completely out of juice. As Zeno sneaks a Medusa into his pocket, Gen and Chrome object. However, Senku suggests keeping him engaged and that inspecting the Medusa is a better option since they are up against Stanley. Just when it feels like a dead end, Senku comes up with a plan. With this many shell units, there's still something we can do. Thus, Ryusui lays out the plan. Only Jewel and the gem clock experts can cleanly dismantle the cores, but crushing them is easy enough for anyone. They remember Matsukaze's warning that messing with a lone Medusa was a gamble. Now, with dozens, they can smash them to bits and hunt for whatever's left inside. Science kids love a good teardown, and the team dives into a full-scale disassembly frenzy. Just as Senku's team is preparing to get started with the Medusas, we cut to Stanley's flagship slicing through the waves. Stanley implies that Senku and the others must have escaped safely by now. However, that radar guy says, "We tracked their bike tracks and they're heading down the Amazon. They've got to build a new vessel to make that trip." He adds, "No matter how many detours they take, our radar nets will pick them up." Anyhow, Senku starts collecting the Medusas as test samples. After that, they start designing this jagged, weird-looking boat, and everyone's arguing about aesthetics. Some want cute and round, others want edgy and sharp. However, Senku steps in and explains that Stanley is using radar, transforming the whole conversation into a stealth tech crash course. Senku says, "Let's build a stealth ship," and Ryusui loses his mind with excitement. Then Senku explains how radar works, how shapes affect detection, and how they're going to beat 21st century tech with Stone Age hacks. It's not perfect, but it's stealthy enough to mess with Stanley's radar. As you might have guessed, the weird design will help them evade detection. Senku says, "Angled cuts to absorb radar." They slap carbon-loaded rubber all over it, turning rubber into stealth armor. Senku asks Zeno for advice on using rubber to make the ship stealthy, but Zeno refuses to help. Once they finish the stealth ship, everyone acknowledges that it kind of looks cool. However, even after the rubber coating, the ship is still being picked up by radar. They start wondering why no one saw the petrification coming. Like, how did NASA miss this? This leads Ukyo to test a Medusa on radar, and guess what? It's completely invisible. It turns out the Medusas were shaped to avoid even the most advanced radars, designed to be invisible. That's sci-fi tech we're talking about here. Chrome's like, "Let's slap this tech on our ship and go full stealth mode." Thus, they somehow acquire a futuristic stealth ship using the Medusas. On the way, Senku gets to work on making one Medusa function and finding out how it works, with the hope of using it against Stanley and defeating him. Thus, Medusas get cracked open, diamonds are analyzed, and Senku's crew goes all in. Zeno also joins Senku, implying that falling behind in science for political reasons sounds lame. By the way, Joel's elegant breakdown report comes in clutch, and they discover that the blackened diamonds are just damaged ones, and most of the unused diamonds are messed up. Some are chipped, some are too small, and others have tiny fractures running along atomic fault lines. Then, Chrome finds one diamond that isn't blackened at all. Thus, Senku suggests looking for a Medusa with a pretty-looking diamond. So they start digging through the pile, hunting for a Medusa that still has a clean diamond stuck in it. Kohaku's already sprinting across the lab, yelling, 1 meter, 3 seconds. Then, Senku comes up with a hypothesis that putting in a brand new diamond might reboot an undamaged Medusa, as was proven earlier by Joel. But there is a problem. Every clean-looking diamond has some kind of flaw, whereas the used ones, they're perfect. Thus, Senku decides to make diamonds and hands the task over to the peace team. Everyone's like, "You're insane. You can't just make diamonds." Ui's already imagining the old world. If you could do that, you'd be filthy rich. Senku lays it out. Science isn't reserved for geniuses. Whether you're a saint or a killer, if you follow the steps, you get the same result. That's the beauty of it. And the ingredients? Alcohol. Just plain alcohol. Even cheap booze will do, he says, with a little extra work. They raid Dr. Zeno's stash and find a bottle. Then comes the heat source, tungsten. Alcohol goes into a hot water bath, vaporizes, and the filament superheats inside a pencil-sized tube. First attempt, boom! Something literally explodes. Turns out air got mixed in. Second try, the wires short out. Meanwhile, Minami's losing it, yelling, "I don't get it anymore," while Mecha Senku calmly points out the wires fused. Classic lab mistake. They also can't ask Brody to help since they don't want the Americans to know about this. Third time's the charm. They purge the air, rewire the circuit, and flip the switch. And then, glitter. Tiny, shimmering particles inside the tube. Joel leans in with his jeweler's eye and says, "That's a diamond, no doubt."